One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. This is part 2 of the One Question with Tulsa Athletic Director Derrick Gragg, and builds on our conversation from yesterday as he details strategies around engaging student athletes on a regular basis within his Golden Hurricane department. We also cover how he interfaces with head coaches before and after games, along with the continuous need for effective written communication by all levels of administrators and student athletes in the age of text messaging, emojis, and the challenges of the overall social media landscape. So enjoy and have a solid day. What strategies are you using at Tulsa to effectively connect with student athletes on a really regular basis and in a manner that's impactful?
Right. And one thing about being, as you climb the ladder, and I've worked in all phases of athletics over the past 23 years, I'm kind of one of those people who have worked my way up and I started in the trenches and I've been involved with a lot of different units and areas in athletics over the course of my career. As you go up the ladder, you get further and further removed from the student athletes. And when you're sitting in the director of athletics chair, you're as far removed from the student athletes as anyone. So you have to be very, very purposeful about contacting student athletes. Now, what I do or try to do every year is I address the football, men's and women's basketball teams in their preseason meetings, because those student athletes by and large are a little bit more high profile, or a lot more high profile than everybody else. And they get a lot of the attention, for better or worse. So I like to be able to talk to them. Also, we have a preseason pre-fall barbecue for the student athletes. I'll speak at that. I'll go, and that's for all the student athletes. I'll walk around. My wife comes, my children, so they can get a feel for us. And then at games and things like that, because it's hard to get to all the games. I go to all football games, home and away. I go to all home basketball games, whether it's men's or women's, and then I try to go to as many postseason tournaments as possible, regardless of who makes it. And I try to go to as many home matches, or at least for a half, for the other team. So I'm pretty purposeful about, you call it bumping into the kids after the games, in particular after wins. I like to post myself by the locker room, shake a lot of hands, pat people on the back and tell them what a great job they're doing. But you have to be really, really purposeful about it, or you can find yourself stuck in a lot of these meetings that we have to deal with, because we're dealing with the presidents and the board members and our constituents and our donors, and they want a lot of our time. And sometimes even at these events, as the athletic director, you don't even get to watch the game. Mm-hmm. So again, you have to be very purposeful about connecting with student athletes.
How do you navigate, sometimes we hear about head coaches who don't want anybody else around their team, even the AD at times, before or after or on a sideline. How do you navigate that relationship and be cognizant of how the head coach wants to operate his or her program?
Right. Well, I think with me, I've never had a big problem with that. I think it's because, when I'm coming around to be supportive. I'm not looking for things, and so I think the coaches see me as a great support and a great ally to begin with. I do think being a student athlete and having worked in the trenches and worked in college athletics the past 20 some odd years, like a lot of these coaches have, I have a legitimacy with them also. So, and I've learned, though, you don't approach coaches like right after they lose, because emotions are high. And so when I go to the locker room, I tend to only go when we win games, because I know how that is. I may go out on the field or go out on the court or stand by the locker room and greet a coach if it's just a tough loss. But by and large, I know how to pick my battles too. I've been doing this a long time with a lot of different coaches. And so, I let them cool down. I'll go to the press conference and then maybe say something to them afterwards. But that's also in a supportive capacity as well. So they know that I'm there to lean on, and whenever they need to meet with me or talk to me, they know that they can do it. So that's just the way that I handle that.
You mentioned having an interest in journaling being part of why you wrote the book, and I almost hate to ask this question, but our youth these days, and you're a great case study in this because of the age of your children. Do we need to overemphasize the importance of effectively communicating through the written word, given how much social media, emoji, text message? I mean, how do we combat this?
Well, we have to, and it's interesting you bring that up. I was just watching 60 Minutes last night, and they talked about how these 20-something, it's like 4 or 5 20-something year old people out in the world right now who are basically shaping and advertising and pushing products to the mainstream. I call them kids from 18, from 13 all the way up to 20-something years old. And all the major companies are starting to dial in on these 4 or 5 people to help them push their products. And it's all through social media. It's all through Instagram. It's all through Snapchat and all those things that a lot of us, that's kind of above a lot of our heads technology-wise. But we do have to clue in on that. And I use my own kids, as you said, as a case study. And I know that a lot of times I can get a hold of my older children a lot quicker on text than I can with a phone call. Mm-hmm. And then it's followed by a phone call. But usually, initially, I have to say, I'll text and say, hey, I'm going to call you. I want you to call me at such and such time. And they'll do that. Whereas if I just call, a lot of times that phone just goes to voicemail, mm-hmm. and I'm dad. So, when you're trying to push your messages to other people that you aren't the parent of, you really have to be on top of the social media thing, and you have to be in tune with it, and you have to know just how much they stay in tune with the world through those mediums.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.